Hey guys, it's Max here from Evidence-Based Football Manager, where I talk about all things Football Manager based on evidence, the whole evidence, and nothing but the evidence. Today I'm going to talk about defenders that play on the left and right flanks of the pitch, such as fullbacks and wingbacks. This is quite a big topic, so I'm just going to split this into two separate videos. In part 1, I'm going to cover fullbacks and wingbacks, and in part 2, I'm going to cover inverted wingbacks, complete wingbacks, and no-nonsense fullbacks. Guys, as the name of this channel suggests, I am all about lab-tested evidence, so I'm just going to spend a bit of time now explaining to you how I set up today's research. If you wanted to go straight to the results, feel free to skip ahead. First, I look for a neutral venue at which I will conduct my experiments. In FM21, when you start the game in England, there is a Community Shield match played between Arsenal and Liverpool, and the Community Shield match is of course held at Wembley Stadium, which is a neutral ground, so there is no home ground advantage to either side on the field. Next, I use the database editor and the in-game editor to set up two completely identical squads with the same attributes, same hidden attributes, same tactical familiarity, and so on. I'm basically trying to equalize any and all factors that could affect the player's matchday performance. I have added a second manager in the game, so I'm in charge of both Liverpool and Arsenal. And these two squads are composed of players who are exactly the same, so I know that I have set up an unbiased, perfectly even playing field. Now, I set up three generic formations, 4-4-2, 4-2-3-1, and 5-3-2. I picked these formations because they are common football formations that employ fullbacks and wingbacks. I tweaked the tactic a little bit so that they become more symmetrical because I want the left and right defenders to show the same level of performance during my experiments. And I also tick more discipline because I want these players to stick to the roles and duties that I prescribe to them. So I apply one of these tactics for both teams, Liverpool and Arsenal, and then I set these two players as fullbacks on defend duty. Then I just proceed to the Community Shield match and let the match run its course. During the match, I do not introduce any tactical changes, no shouts, no nothing from both sides on the field. When the match ends, I go into the match report so that I can record the various statistics that I think are relevant to assessing the performance of fullbacks and wingbacks. So those statistics are passes, pass completion rate, crosses, tackles, shots, dribbles, and the running distance covered by these players throughout the match. I also capture the heat maps, the average positions of the players on the pitch, and the pass combinations of these players. Now, this pass combination thing is a little bit misleading. It doesn't necessarily indicate where the players are located on the pitch. It just shows you where these players like to play in relation to other players on the same team in the tactic that you play. Of course, one trial is not enough, so what I do is at the end of every match, I reload the existing save, run the same Community Shield match over and over again until I get at least 10 samples for each roles and duties. So once I have gathered enough data for fullbacks on defend duty, I switch these guys to fullbacks on support. Then I repeat the same process until I can collect enough sample size. I do the same thing until I cover the following roles and duties: fullbacks on defend, support, and attack duties, wingbacks on defend, support, and attack duties, and what I call forward wingbacks on defend, support, and attack duties. Now, forward wingbacks, this is a term that I made up. I'll show you what this is. So in the Football Manager tactics screen, you can place your wingbacks on a more advanced position. So I'm just going to call it a forward wingbacks for lack of a better term. Okay, the data collection is complete. So here are the results. I have compiled it into an Excel spreadsheet. I know it looks a bit daunting, but I will walk you through it slowly. I have also created visualized maps combining the heat maps, average positions, pass combinations, and the locations from which these players are making their crosses. So let us go through these results together. So first up, it's the fullbacks on defend, support, and attack duties using the 4-4-2 and the 4-2-3-1 tactics. So here the blue dots indicate the average positions occupied by the fullbacks on the pitch throughout the 90 minutes. Red dots indicate where those players are located on average in relation to other players in the team. These blurred blue areas represent the heat maps, and these yellow dots indicate the locations from which the crosses are made by the fullbacks. Remember, the sample size is 5 per side. That's why there are 5 blue dots and 5 red dots on this side, and 5 blue dots and 5 red dots on this side. The heat maps are from 5 separate matches superimposed into one image. So the heat maps of the left fullbacks from 5 separate matches are combined into one image on this side, and the same thing on this side for the right fullbacks. Likewise, the number of crosses indicated by the yellow dots are combined from 5 separate matches. So if you compare the average positions and the pass combinations, I'm not seeing any significant difference between these 6 visualized maps. If you compare the heat maps, you can see that the fullbacks on defend duty tend to stay in their own half a bit more, whereas the fullbacks on attack duty tend to get forward a bit more, further up the pitch. If you look at all the yellow dots, fullbacks on defend duty don't make too many crosses. Remember, these numbers are from 5 matches combined, so during those 5 matches, the left fullback here made only 1 cross. So 1 cross out of 5 matches is really very little. On the other hand, when the fullbacks are on support or attack duty, they really start crossing a lot more. Now let's have a look at the numbers. So the number of passes, no significant difference between defend, support or attack duties. But it's interesting to note that when you're in the 4-2-3-1 formation, the fullbacks tend to pass a bit more compared to the 4-4-2 formation. I'm not entirely sure why this is the case. It could be that in the 4-2-3-1 formation, the fullbacks or the wingbacks, they have more empty space in front of them, so they're responsible for covering more space, which sort of forces them to become more involved in the game and exchange more passes with their teammates. That could be the reason why these fullbacks are showing recording more passes when they're in the 4-2-3-1 formation compared to when they're in the 4-4-2 formation. That's my theory anyway. Pass completion rates. So the fullbacks on defend duty have recorded the highest pass completion rates, whereas the supporting and the attacking fullbacks have slightly lower rates. This makes sense because the defending fullbacks have the player instruction take fewer risks turned on. So I guess they will tend to make more safer and more predictable passes to their teammates rather than taking risks with their passes. Number of crosses, as we can see on this visualized map, the average number of crosses do go up when you're in support or attack duty. Number of tackles, more or less the same whether you're on defend, support or attack. There's no significant difference in the number of tackles between these different duties. Number of shots, slightly higher when you're on attack duty, but it's still less than 1 shot per match, so I wouldn't count on fullbacks creating a lot of goal-scoring opportunities even when they're on attack duty. If you look at the running distance covered by these fullbacks, the fullbacks on attack duty run a bit more compared to when they're on support duty, and those on support duty run a bit more than those on defend duty. Number of dribbles, no significant difference between the three different duties. Now remember that these statistics are recorded when the team mentality was set as balanced, and the team mentality and the individual player mentalities are 2 different concepts, although the team mentality does affect the individual player mentalities. So when you're on a balanced team mentality, the fullbacks on defend duty become a defensive mentality, whereas the fullbacks on support duty become balanced, and the fullbacks on attack duty become a positive mentality. These differences in the player mentalities could explain why the attacking fullbacks run a bit more compared to the supporting fullbacks, and the supporting fullbacks run a bit more than the defending fullbacks. Okay, let's go through the player instructions this time. So the fullbacks on defend duty have take fewer risks turned on. As I mentioned before, this probably explains why the fullbacks on defend duty have higher pass completion rates compared to the supporting and the attacking fullbacks. Okay, cross from deep is also turned on. I don't know about this one because I mean, it doesn't really matter where the fullbacks are making these crosses because the fullbacks on defensive duty tend to make very few crosses anyway. So I guess this instruction really isn't that relevant. Okay, the hold position instruction is also turned on. This isn't really that evident from these heat maps because you can see here and here that the fullbacks on defensive duty do still roam around the pitch quite a bit. They're not really holding their position in one place. Okay, the fullbacks on support duty don't have any specific instructions turned on. The fullbacks on attack duty are instructed to cross more. Yes, again, that's quite obvious from these visualized maps, and they are also instructed to get further forward. Okay, so if you look at the heat maps, the attacking fullbacks are spending a decent amount of time further up the pitch. But then I can't tell for sure whether this is due to this instruction because the fullbacks on support duty do not have this instruction turned on. And they're still spending quite a bit of time going forward. And also remember that these attacking fullbacks, they are on positive mentality. So that's also going to nudge these guys to go forward a bit more compared to the fullbacks on support and fullbacks on defend. So yeah, I can't tell for sure, at least from these heat maps, if this get further forward instruction is producing any meaningful results. Now we move on to the wingbacks. Again, here we have 6 visualized maps representing the different player duties. Wingbacks on defend duty, support duty, and attack duty. The top row is using the 4-4-2 tactic, and the bottom row is the 4-2-3-1 tactic. Let's have a look at these average positions represented by the blue dots. I don't notice any significant difference between the 6 maps. The wingbacks more or less occupy similar positions on the field, regardless of their duties. If you compare the pass combinations represented by the red dots, the wingbacks on attack duties are positioned a bit more forwards compared to when they are on support or defend duty. Looking at the heat maps, when the wingbacks are on defend or support duties, the heat maps are quite evenly spread out on the pitch. But when they are attacking, the heat maps are concentrated a bit more towards the offensive half of the pitch. Comparing the number of crosses, the defending wingbacks make slightly less crosses compared to the supporting or attacking wingbacks. But these guys still make a lot more crosses compared to the fullbacks on defend duty. Remember, the defending fullbacks rarely made any crosses at all. So compared to that, the defensive wingbacks will still put in a decent number of crosses throughout the match. Now let's have a look at the stats. Number of passes, no significant difference between defense, support and attack duties, but a higher number of passes are observed when they are in the 4-2-3-1 formation compared to the 4-4-2 formation. Pass completion rates, the defending wingbacks are passing more accurately compared to the supporting or attacking wingbacks. That's a trend that we can see here. Number of crosses, okay, the highest number of crosses are recorded by the attacking wingbacks compared to the supporting or the defending wingbacks. Number of tackles, it's more or less constant. There's no clear trend here. Number of shots per match, slightly higher when the wingbacks are on attack duty. But just like we saw with the fullbacks, the number of shots per match are still so low. I mean, 0.1 shots per match, 0.2 shots per match, it's nothing. So it doesn't really matter anyway. The running distance covered by these wingbacks, lowest when defending, highest when attacking. Number of dribbles per match, it's more or less constant regardless of the assigned duty. Now let's go through the player instructions. The defending wingbacks have take fewer risks turned on. Okay, I guess this explains the higher pass completion rate recorded by the defending wingbacks compared to the supporting or the attacking wingbacks. Cross from deep is turned on. Okay, so let's have a look at the visualized maps, whether this is true. Yeah, I'm not too sure about this one. The defending wingbacks are still making a decent number of crosses near the byline, which is sort of going against this instruction to cross from deep. The attacking wingbacks have the opposite instruction turned on. So these guys are instructed to cross from byline, but they are still making a good portion of their crosses when they are nowhere near the byline. So yeah, this instruction, cross from deep, and this instruction, cross from byline, they don't seem to be working very well, at least from these heat maps anyway. Okay, wingbacks on defend duty also have run wide with ball turned on as part of their instructions. Actually, all of these wingbacks have the instruction run wide with ball turned on. So, okay, let's have a look at the maps again. Okay, so the heat maps do show that these wingbacks tend to run towards the wide areas quite a bit when they're in the opposition half of the pitch. But remember that the fullbacks did not have this instruction run wide turned on, and their heat maps also showed that they tended to run towards the opposition corner areas, the wider areas. So although these wingbacks tend to run towards the wider areas of the pitch when they're in the opposition half of the field, I can't tell for sure if that's actually due to this instruction to run wide with ball. It could just be the way that the fullbacks and the wingbacks are hardwired. You know, maybe they're just hardwired to sort of run towards the corner areas of the pitch anyway, even without this instruction. Okay, and the instruction to hold position is also enabled. Again, similar to the fullbacks on defend duty, it's not really obvious from these heat maps whether this instruction is working as intended, because as you can see, the wingbacks here, they're really roaming around the field quite a bit. They're not really holding their position. Next, have a look at the player instructions for the supporting wingbacks. They have the instruction run wide with ball turned on. I've already covered that. Get further forward is enabled for both the supporting wingbacks and the attacking wingbacks. Now, just like the fullbacks, I cannot say for certain whether this is working as intended. Yes, looking at the heat maps, the attacking and the supporting wingbacks do go forward a bit more compared to the defending wingbacks, but that could just be due to the difference in the player mentality. Just like with the fullbacks, when the team is on overall balanced mentality, the defending wingbacks become defensive mentality, the supporting wingbacks become balanced, and the attacking wingbacks become positive mentality. So it could just be the difference in the player mentalities that result in this kind of heat maps, where these guys are the wingbacks on attacking duties. They have a positive mentality, so they just tend to go forward a bit more compared to these guys who are on defensive and balanced mentalities. So yeah, I can't tell for sure whether this get further forward instruction is working. Okay, let's have a look at the wingbacks on attack duty. They have the instruction dribble more turned on. Let's have a look at the stats, whether this is true. So the statistics don't show any significant increase in the number of dribbles for the attacking wingbacks. Now, this dribble tally is just a number of successful dribbles, yeah? So a player may attempt to dribble past an opposition defender, but that dribble will only be recorded in this statistics if he is successful in getting past a defender. Now, the match report in Football Manager doesn't show the number of attempted dribbles. I mean, not to my knowledge anyway. So it could be that these attacking wingbacks are attempting more dribbles as per this instruction, but maybe it's just not being reflected in these statistics. Okay, the instruction run wide with ball is turned on. I've covered that already. Cross more, yes, that's obvious from both the heat maps and the statistics. Although you could argue that, again, it's the change in the player mentality that results in the higher number of crosses per match. So these attacking wingbacks are given a positive mentality, so that's going to sort of nudge them to sort of make more crosses per match, regardless of whether you have this instruction cross more often enabled or not. Cross from byline, yep, I've covered that already. I don't think it's working as intended. Get further forward is enabled. I've talked about that as well. Next, we have the forward wingbacks. Remember, this is the role when you position your wingbacks more advanced than the regular defensive line, so that the wingbacks occupy the same line as the defensive midfielders. Now, with these forward wingbacks, I've experimented with 3 different formations: 4-4-2, 4-2-3-1, and 5-3-2. So I have 9 visualized maps to present here. So it's a bit squeezy trying to fit all 9 images onto one screen, but I do think it's a good idea to try to visualize everything at a glance like this. So looking at the blue and the red dots, I don't see any significant difference between the defend, support and the attack duties. It's just with the 5-3-2 tactic, the wingbacks tend to push up a lot more compared to the 4-4-2 and the 4-2-3-1 tactic. So when you're playing the 5-3-2 tactic, even when the wingbacks are given defensive duties, they really push up a lot into the opposition half of the field. I guess this is sort of expected because in the 5-3-2 formation, the wingbacks almost act as hybrid wingers. So I guess it's sort of natural to see these wingbacks here to very actively join into the offensive phases of the game. The heat maps also show that these wingbacks really pushing deep into the opposition territory. They're not really tracking back too much into their own halves, and they're really spending the majority of their times in the opponent half of the field. Let's have a look at the stats. Number of passes, as I mentioned before, the forward wingbacks record a higher number of passes in the 4-2-3-1 formation compared to the 4-4-2 formation. And in the 5-3-2 formation, the number of passes go up even more. But interestingly, when these wingbacks are on the attacking duty, the number of passes suddenly drop a lot compared to when they are on support or defensive duties. Pass completion rate. The highest rates are recorded when these forward wingbacks are on defend duties, most likely due to having the player instruction take fewer risks turned on. Number of crosses, okay. Highest number of crosses recorded when these wingbacks are on attacking duties. Number of tackles, no significant difference whether these wingbacks are attacking, supporting or defending. Number of shots, okay. Highest number of shots per match when attacking. I guess that's sort of expected. Running distance, okay. It's the lowest when these wingbacks are defending, and it's the highest when they are attacking. Number of dribbles. The number of successful dribbles per match goes up quite a bit when these players are given the attacking duty, probably due to having the instruction dribble more turned on. But it's still less than 1 dribble per match, so I guess it's not that important that the players are told to dribble more. Guys, I'm not going to go through these player instructions for the forward wingbacks one by one because they're actually exactly the same as the normal wingbacks, and I don't want to start repeating the same stuff. So I'm just going to go straight to the summary of everything that we talked about today. Okay guys, these are the take-home messages for today's video. With the number of passes, player roles such as fullback or wingback or the duties that you assign to them aren't that important. What's more important is the tactic that you use. Your fullbacks or wingbacks will pass more when you are using the 4-2-3-1 or the 5-3-2 tactic compared to when you're using the 4-4-2 tactic. In regards to pass accuracy, it's the player duties that's important. Fullbacks or wingbacks on defend duties record the highest pass accuracy rates, so if you're trying to play the possession game, where you want to retain possession of the ball as much as possible, set your fullbacks or wingbacks on defend duty. With the number of crosses, the forward wingbacks put in more crosses per match on average than wingbacks, and wingbacks crossed more than fullbacks. Players on attack duties cross more than those on support duties, and those on support duties cross more than those on defend duties. If you compare the running distances covered by your fullbacks or wingbacks, players on attack duties ran more than those on support or defend duties. So if you want your fullbacks or wingbacks to run around the pitch more, possibly because you're trying to play gegenpress style football, give them attacking duties, and don't forget to use players with high work rate and stamina. When it comes to the number of tackles, dribbles and shots, there were negligible differences between the different player roles and duties. Fullbacks or wingbacks rarely made more than 2 shots per match, regardless of the assigned duty, which leads me to think that player attributes related to shooting, such as finishing and long shots, may not be so important for fullbacks or wingbacks. Okay, to finish off, I'm just going to go through some of the limitations of today's research. So the statistics that we discussed today, they are based on the 4-4-2, 4-2-3-1 and the 5-3-2 formations. As I mentioned at the start, I chose these 3 tactics because I think they are the most popular tactics that employ fullbacks and wingbacks. but the results and the actual statistics may differ if you experimented with other formations. Also, for the experiments today, the team mentalities were set as balanced, and again, the exact statistical results may vary if you experimented with different team mentalities. Okay guys, that is it for this video. Remember, this is part 1 of my research covering fullbacks and wingbacks. There are more things about fullbacks and wingbacks that I wanted to talk about, and we will continue that discussion in part 2, which will be uploaded in the future. If you like what you saw today, please like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.